For 50 years, there was an invisible deal running underneath the entire global economy, one most people have never heard of. It's why the US dollar became the most powerful currency on Earth. And in 2024, without much fanfare, it quietly came to an end. It's called the petrodollar system, and it starts in 1971 when President Nixon made a decision that changed everything. He ended the dollar's connection to gold. Suddenly, the world's reserve currency wasn't backed by anything physical at all. 2 years later, war broke out in the Middle East. Arab oil-producing nations, angry at U.S. support for Israel, cut off oil exports to America. Gas prices exploded. It became clear the U.S. needed a new way to guarantee global demand for its now unanchored dollar. So in 1974, the U.S. Treasury Secretary flew to Saudi Arabia. The real documented deal that came out of that trip: Saudi Arabia would recycle its oil profits into U.S. Treasury bonds, and in exchange, the United States would provide military equipment and protection for the Saudi kingdom. Now, here's where most retellings of this story get it wrong. The popular version online says Saudi Arabia signed a secret, legally binding treaty to sell oil exclusively in dollars for 50 years, expiring right on schedule in 2024. That specific claim isn't backed by the historical record. Oil was already being priced mostly in dollars before 1974. That part happened naturally because the dollar was already the world's dominant currency. What Saudi Arabia and the U.S. actually signed was about investment and military cooperation. No formal clause ever required exclusive dollar pricing. It's convention, not contract. But whether it was a formal treaty or just powerful habit, the effect was the same for 50 years. Countries needed dollars to buy oil, the world's most essential commodity. That guaranteed demand let the U.S. borrow more cheaply than almost anyone else on Earth. Fast forward to today. As of the end of 2025, the dollar's share of global reserves has fallen to about 57%, down from roughly 71% in the year 2000. Saudi Arabia's own holdings of U.S. Treasury bonds have dropped from $165 billion in 2014 to about $135 billion today. And where's the money going instead? Central banks worldwide bought roughly 1,000 tons of gold last year alone, one of the largest buying sprees in modern history. Russia, China, India, and Turkey are leading that shift, quietly building alternatives to dollar-based reserves. So is the dollar collapsing? Not exactly, and this is important. Analysts who study this closely describe it as erosion, not collapse. Much of the reserve share drop reflects currency value shifts, not active dumping. The dollar remains dominant simply because of deep habit, liquidity, and the sheer size of U.S. financial markets, but erosion still matters. The system explained in one line: oil priced in dollars, settled through U.S. banks, with surplus profits recycled into U.S. treasuries, and all three of those legs are weakening, each at a different speed. If this trend continues, it could mean higher borrowing costs for the U.S. government over time, because fewer countries are automatically funneling money back into American debt. That's not a prediction of collapse. It's a slow-moving structural shift with real consequences either way. For 50 years, an invisible arrangement most people never learned about quietly shaped interest rates, oil prices, and global power. It didn't end with a dramatic collapse in 2024 like the myth says. It's been fading gradually for years, right in front of us. Most systems that shape our lives don't end with a bang. They just quietly stop being taken for granted. If invisible systems like this, the ones that actually run the world quietly behind the headlines, are what you want to understand, subscribe. We're going to keep pulling back the curtain, one system at a time.